There are flies on the inside of the window when you arrive, hundreds of them, crawling. This isn't what you want to see when you go to visit a buddy that you haven't heard from in a few days, but you're not a fair-weather friend. You hammer on the door, trying to put all the worst assumptions out of your mind, until, to your immense relief, he answers. He looks terrible, clad in a shoddy bathrobe covered in stains, his face a mask of grease and whiskers, his unwashed hair clinging to his forehead. You've never seen his eyes so tired. You could carry a week's groceries in the bags underneath them. And he's pointing a loaded, double-barreled shotgun at your chest. You step back, holding up your hands to show you mean no harm. You don't know what the hell has gotten into him, but you're not going to take your chances. Something is wrong here. Something is awfully, awfully wrong. He asks you your birthday. For a second, you just freeze in confusion, like a rabbit about to get zeroed by the front tires of a big rig. Your friend rests the stock of the shotgun against his shoulder and looks at you down the sights. At that moment, it sinks in. He really might kill you if you don't answer. Under threat of violence, you choke out the date. After a tense pause, your friend nods and stows the shotgun. He apologizes for scaring you, but adds that these days, you really can't be too careful. About what? Is the unspoken question that hangs in the air. But before we go any further, we want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Private Internet Access, aka PIA, the world's most transparent VPN provider. With over 30 million downloads, PIA is a leader in user privacy. It hides your IP address and keeps your digital life cloaked, shielding you from prying eyes, whether that's your ISP, network admins, or even the government. Browsing without PIA is like sending a private message to a group chat. Everyone can see your business. Whoops. But with PIA, your connection is encrypted, ensuring your privacy is protected. In fact, their no-logs policy has been proven multiple times in court and backed by an external audit from Deloitte, one of the biggest and most trusted accounting firms in the world. But protection isn't all PIA offers. It's also about freedom. Whether you're hiding out from a storm in New York or relaxing on a beach in the Maldives, PIA lets you access streaming content from anywhere, thanks to its servers in more than 91 countries and every U.S. state. I use PIA all the time while gaming to reduce my ping times with local servers to boost my speed. It's also great for watching TV and movies that aren't available in your region. PIA runs seamlessly across platforms: Windows, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and more. And with one subscription, you can protect an unlimited number of devices at the same time. And here's the best part. We have a special offer just for you. By clicking my link in the description, you can get an 83% discount on private internet access. That's just $2.03 a month. And you'll also get 4 extra months completely free. And if you're still on the fence, don't worry. PIA offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. Plus, their 24/7 customer support is always available if you need help. So go try private internet access right now. Your privacy deserves no less. And with PIA, you're in good hands. He invites you inside, and despite your firearm-inspired reservations, you decide to accept the invitation. The least you can do is give him a proper wellness check. The inside of his house does nothing to settle your concerns. Food is left out on the tables and takeout containers, crawling with maggots. Dirty clothes are strewn across the floor. He stops you just before you step into a bear trap he's laid in the middle of the foyer. Your friend has always been an eccentric type. He'd been openly enthusiastic about all things strange and paranormal, spending hours on that goofy Parawatch forum that he'd always talk your ear off about after a few beers. All blurry photos of smudges that were supposedly UFOs or ghosts or cryptids or whatever else. You've never bought into all that stuff, but you figured it was just a harmless hobby for your buddy. Some guys had bowling or fantasy football. He had his ghosts and ghouls. But everything in front of you is like a big, glaring neon light that screams he's lost his mind. Soon enough, you're in the living room, surrounded by stacks of books and printed-off sheets of paper. There's also a .38 revolver on the coffee table, with a few loose rounds in the ashtray. You didn't know what concerned you more, that, the shotgun, or the .45 automatic that was resting on top of a book titled Shapeshifters of European Folklore by Duncan Blute. You're starting to wonder whether your friend is more a danger to himself or everyone else right now. All this time, he just keeps muttering, You can't be too careful, man. You can't be too careful. He lays the shotgun across the coffee table, knocking some pamphlets about ley lines and shadow people onto the ground. He rubs his face, and you can feel the organic sound of it stretching against his skull, like everything about him has started to sag. You suggest that maybe he should take a shower and get himself together, maybe even shave if he felt up to it. You'd be a good friend and keep watch down here while he did it. He takes some persuading, but eventually agrees, on the condition that he can load his .38 and take it up to the bathroom with him. You give some pushback on that, but soon relent. The smell of him is starting to make you feel a little sick. As he slumps his way upstairs towards the bathroom, you're left alone in the living room, sitting among the wreckage of a good friend's seemingly shattered mind. He'd always been a little obsessive, but this took the cake and then some. Once you can hear the shower running upstairs, you start rifling through the books and papers stacked around the room. Maybe there's some clue in all this, some indication of what caused your buddy's spectacular downward spiral. Entities among us, the hidden creatures, how to ward off dark spirits. This is not the home library of a well-adjusted man. But strangest of all is something you find among the papers, heavily circled and annotated. It's a text printout from some janky Web 2.0 GeoCities-looking site, with the heading, "On Encounters with the One with 1,000 Faces." You scan through the text until your eyes seem to snag on a small excerpt. The One is not an animal, though it can appear to be at will. It is an intelligent being, very old and very patient. By the time it has selected you, it is already too late, but it will always prolong the chase. Over a week, it will hunt for you. It will stalk you. It will wear faces both alien and familiar to get close to you. Then, it will find you in the night, at your most defenseless, and steal away your... 3 gunshots ring out upstairs, and your heart takes an express elevator into your throat. No, not like this. You run upstairs, taking 3 at a time, chest burning with anxiety. You see water seeping out from under the bathroom door and soaking into the carpet. With a rough kick, you smash the door open and barge in. You see your friend huddled in the corner, wet and crying, the .38 still gripped tight in his shaking fist. By the looks of it, he's blown 3 holes through the wall in the bottom left corner of the room. The shower door hangs open, water spraying everywhere. You lean in and shut it off. Then you turn to the pitiful sight of your friend, somehow feeling more sad than afraid. He chokes out between sobs. I thought I saw a rat. He's left you no choice. You call an ambulance and tell them that your friend is undergoing some kind of severe psychotic break. He needs to be under observation for his own good. When the proverbial men in white coats come to collect him, he doesn't go peacefully. They were all just lucky that you'd already taken his guns and locked them in a different room. But that didn't stop him from clawing, biting, and punching the 2 EMTs who did everything they could to get him strapped to the gurney. No, you can't take me, he screamed. If you take me, it'll get me! It'll get me! With the din of sirens and the flash of emergency lights, your friend is gone. You gave your phone number to the EMTs as the first point of contact if there are any complications, a clumsy and unpleasant euphemism, and you promise yourself that you'll visit him as soon as the staff at the hospital tell you it's safe to do so. You know in your heart that you've done the right thing, but you still go home feeling shaken. That night, your apartment feels extra empty. Every dark shadow seems to hold some unspoken guilt. Something you should have said or should have done. Something that would have stopped it all from getting this bad. Maybe it was all down to you for being a bad friend. Soon enough, you're sitting in front of your TV, peeling the plastic film off the top of a microwave meal, and suddenly, your nostrils catch the most awful smell. Moldy, yet sickeningly sweet, like meat syrup. The shock of it almost makes you gag. You look down at your microwave meal, expecting to see it festering with maggots and an earthen rainbow of mold, just like all the repulsive, forgotten food at your friend's place. But no, the food is as pristine as it was when you first put it in the microwave. That smell has to be coming from somewhere else. You didn't have much of an appetite anyway after first catching that smell, so you stand and walk further into your apartment, searching for the source of the rot. but there's nothing you can see. No open garbage can, no leftovers left out too long. Did something die in the wall? No, if it did, you would have noticed it by now. Not long after that strange incident, the smell fades and you go about your business. Maybe it was just a sense memory. You've had a bit of a traumatic day after all. You decide to go to bed early that night. Tomorrow is a new day. But as you try to sleep, you get this strange sense that you're not alone in the apartment. A ringing phone wakes you up in the morning. Never a good sign. You answer while pulling on some jeans and a t-shirt to find that it's the hospital calling. Oh no. It's about your friend. There's been some kind of incident in the night. They'd really appreciate it if you could get down to the hospital at your earliest convenience. Your car is still in the shop after a fender bender last week, so you take the bus, the whole time inventing increasingly elaborate scenarios in your head of what could have happened overnight. But you never would have guessed what actually occurred. When you arrive, a nurse escorts you to the ward where he's being held, behind a set of translucent green curtains. She tells you he's under heavy sedation, and when you see him, try not to react too severely. A sentiment that has never calmed anyone down, ever. You step behind the curtain, and you can't stifle your gasp in time. Your friend's face. It's wrong. It doesn't look like it's been injured, just warped, like it had grown incorrectly overnight. Large, lumpy growths of skin seem to have changed the topography of his features. If it wasn't for his hair and the name on the clipboard at the foot of his bed, you wouldn't have even recognized it was him. The nurse asks you if you're aware of any pre-existing conditions he may have had. Nothing that could have caused this. On the bus ride home, you just feel hollow. They say they'll contact you if they have any other questions, but you know ahead of time that you don't have answers. How could your friend have become disfigured overnight while tied up and on heavy sedation? It just didn't make any sense. That's when you smell it again, wafting down the aisle of the bus. That sickly sweet smell of rotting flesh. The smell from your friend's house. The smell from your apartment last night. You look up, trying to see the source of the phantom smell, as though the bus driver would be hanging a rotting carcass air freshener from the rearview mirror. But there's nothing. Just the back of everyone's heads staring impassively forward. Apart from one person, a few seats down from you. He's facing back. His eyes meet yours. He's smiling an oddly leering smile. And if you didn't know any better, you'd say he looks just like your friend. While it may seem like the mainstay of dark folk tales and modern internet creepypasta, I'm sorry to tell you that the entity you just witnessed is very real, and despite the Foundation's best efforts, it may be stalking you right now. This is SCP-5362, also known as the One with 1,000 Faces, a being endemic to Northern European folklore that has taken on an anomalous life of its own over the past several centuries, though records of the creature may go back all the way to the 11th century. Due to its nature as a shapeshifter, the anomaly has fit a number of different descriptions, but the most common is a pitiful creature indeed. A humanoid entity dressed in rags, frail and skinless, with no mouth and no eyelids. Its brain is also visible through a thin membrane on the top of its head, and if the physical appearance wasn't repulsive enough, eyewitness accounts have claimed that the anomaly smells like rotting meat. Now, more about that shape-shifting. The entity is able to take the shape of rodents such as mice and rats, completely bypassing any standard notions about conservation of mass. It's also capable of imitating the face of any living human, hence the moniker, the One with 1,000 Faces. During one of the few direct engagements that the Foundation have had with this frightening being, they were able to shoot it before it escaped, gaining some tissue to analyze. Its muscle tissue appears to be made out of specialized chromatophores, cells most commonly found in cephalopods such as octopi, that are able to consciously change their appearance for camouflage. The creature's head also contains a complex tube system, capable of moving around fat deposits at high speed, believed to be the primary biological function behind its ability to change the appearance of its face, along with several others that the Foundation hasn't yet categorized. The anomalous effects of SCP-5362 are activated by engaging with artistic or literary representations of the creature. In the past, this might have meant stumbling upon a dusty old book in the part of a library where nobody ever seems to tread. Or perhaps walking into the forbidden wing of a dead old man's private art gallery. The internet, however, has made SCP-5362 a far more widespread threat. When looking upon what you might think is just a cool horror illustration on Reddit, or reading what you find to be an abnormally eerie creepypasta, you may be signing yourself up for something far worse. What follows will be 7 days of waking nightmares, as the one with 1,000 faces manifests in your life and begins stalking you. Little by little, your fear and paranoia will increase. Was that a whiff of rotting meat you caught? No, it must just be in your imagination. What was that figure you saw disappear behind a building? Was it just your imagination? You'll find that these kinds of questions often pass through your mind during the stalking period. Then, things will get considerably worse. After 7 days of ritualistic stalking, the one with 1,000 faces will make physical contact while you're in a state of REM sleep. Once it has made contact, you'll notice a number of anomalous physical changes to your face over the coming days. Immediately after contact, you'll lose the use of some facial muscles, which will eventually lead to a full state of facial paralysis. Once the paralysis has set in, the facial features will begin to mutate, leading them to be covered in unsightly skin growths that will lead you to be unrecognizable. At this point, the switcheroo will be complete. The one with 1,000 faces will have gained another visage, namely, yours. So the next time it's stalking a victim, it might be menacing them with your grin. Of course, this isn't an attractive prospect, so the Foundation has taken an interest in finding out how to prevent, stop, or even reverse this process. But these methods are hardly a picnic. The method that has the least negative effect on you would be the Foundation intervening while you're in REM sleep, while the one with 1,000 faces is attempting to make contact, which will cause it to panic and dematerialize. The other method of counteracting the anomaly is taking Class F amnestics, which has been known to delay or halt the physical effects of contact with SCP-5362, at the heavy cost of completely erasing your identity, meaning the Foundation will need to build you a new one from the ground up. It's a question worth sitting with. Which is more important to you in the grand scheme of things, your face or your sense of self? Because with SCP-5362, it might be one or the other. As for containment procedures, Foundation web crawlers are constantly on the prowl of anomalous depictions of SCP-5362 in art or literature. We can only hope that they don't get overzealous and include this video in that wide net, because the people need to know about SCP-5362 in the interest of their own safety. Depictions that have physical form, such as books or paintings, are to be confiscated and placed in Containment Locker B at Site-301 for secure storage. Due to the potential widespread exposure risk of the anomaly, it's been given the provisional containment risk Euclid. Anyone affected by the anomaly is to undergo a course of Class F amnestics, as mandated by the O5 Council. Any direct manifestations of the entity are to be monitored by MTF Pi 1, aka the City Slickers, to ensure that direct contact is prevented. You might be thinking, how can the Foundation have such a lock on an anomaly that seems so difficult to track and trace? This efficiency can be partially credited to just how long they've known about the one with 1,000 faces. It was actually first discovered by a Foundation precursor organization, His Majesty's Foundation for the Secure Containment of the Paranormal, or HMF-SCP, back in the 19th century. The Foundation's extensive mythology department has several legacy items on the nature of SCP-5362, generously donated from the collection of everyone's favorite telepathic nudie branch, Lord Blackwood. These items include this intriguing excerpt from the 18th edition of the book Monsters of the Developed World. Falling under the category of mimics, this entity I first heard of from the local populace of a small, little coastal village in the Isles of Great Britain. A farmer by the name of Frederick spoke of a foul beast hidden away in the Scottish Highlands, and perhaps even further out into the wild seas, that would steal the faces of the children who had not been on their best behavior. A simple folktale to scare the children into being nicer to their superiors, I thought. Yet, I was proven wrong. I had heard of the mystical and fantastical before, but nothing of this sort. Some kind of reddish humanoid creature, lacking many characteristics you'd consider universal across nature. It had an oblong head, with its brain visible through a white film. Beneath a broad brow sat 2 black eyes, with 2 nostrils in between. It had no mouth to speak of, only just flat bone in its place, atop a frail, grotesque body that emanated the stench of rotting carcasses. An unpleasant sight to see, to be sure, but I am not the type to back down from gaining new knowledge. It disappeared over the hills sometime later, and in an attempt to follow and track down the creature, we came across one of its victims. In a large field stood a cottage by its lonesome, a path of dead grass leading up to the front door. Somehow, ignoring the bolts and locks, this frail creature had busted the door open. Checking inside, I was greeted to the sight of a man who must have been in his late 70s, collapsed dead. Turning the body over, I came across his face. A layer of flesh had formed over his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, suffocating him as he attempted to leave through the door. Poor old chap. In legends, it said that the creature, once a child, was mocked for his appearance, to the point where he began to conspire with demonic forces in the hopes of releasing a deadly calamity on the people who wronged him. Like always, there was a price to pay, transforming him into the nightmare that plagues these lands today. I hope someday he finally finds peace. Check out the DrBob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of DrBob, like SCP-5056, The Constant Companions.